welcome to the Improv Summit. As you can see, this logo that I did all by myself. Today, I'm excited. I have a very special guest with me today. And I say that a lot, but I truly mean it with Mirage. How are you today, Mirage?
I'm so great. I love talking to you so much. And this is amazing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing this. I have enjoyed our conversations, and for on the record, we've been talking a lot off the record about things. So
Yeah.
maybe some of it'll come out, maybe some of it won't. It's well, who knows?
Some stuff is just for the two of us. Okay. So you just got to deal with that. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're in the circle, maybe one day.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's not about me. It's not about, all of my woes and my loves of improv. It's about you, Mirage, and what you want to tell us about improv here at the Improv Summit. Got a couple questions, but if you have some burning desires of anything you want to say, feel free to shout it out.
Cool.
I'm here for whatever we want to discuss. But we'll start with the basics, the improv background. Just tell me a little bit about your improv background, whatever that means to you, whether it's training, whether it's performance, whether it's everyday life of improv. Just what is your improv background?
Cool. Well, my dad, if people know about me, it just seems like I'm telling the same story over and over again. So I feel like some people are like, oh, we know. But my dad was, I lived in Alaska. I was born in Alaska. My dad he worked on the pipeline, but he also worked with Second City. And so he would come down, and when he was training, he'd come down and he would take classes with Second City Chicago, and he'd bring it up to us. And that's how we would like have fun together. So it's really like improv is like my language, like it's kind of our family language, and it's kind of the way we talk. I mean, I come from a family that just speaks to each other in comedy or yelling. So a lot of times we try comedy.
I love that. And I also didn't know that, actually.
You didn't? Oh, okay.
So me and many of the other viewers around the world may not actually even know you, Mirage. So that's exciting too, because they will get to know you this evening or this afternoon or this morning, wherever they are, because you are a great person to know. That I will say.
That's so cool.
And we can get into all you've done for the improv community over the past who knows how many years, probably since before I was born. I don't know,
75 years. I don't know.
Improv existed. You were fighting for the cause in improv.
With Moses. Me and Moses were like, I was like, Moses, look, we need to do some improv. He's like, I think I need to talk to God about this. And I'm, so all
and
of
that's
that,
when the Red Sea happened. That's when the Red Sea parted.
Yeah. And it was I was like, I'm not going in there. It could close any minute, so there's a lot. There's
yes is one side and is the other.
Yeah.
And you gotta kind of go right in between. Anyway, so you actually kind of already answered my second question, which is what drew you to improv. And it feels like you have a strong connection because of your father and what he kind of would bring to you as you were growing up. So I love that. If you want to expand on that, you can, or we can pop into the next set of questions. I don't know what this is either.
This is how you this is a transition.
That's my transition. It's usually they're very wordy, and this time it was just this.
Like, what are these?
It's my awkward. It's my awkward. I don't know what to do dance. I do it a lot. You'll see it. I do it a lot.
They're good. I think improv is essential and amazing, and I think that people who are improvisers, they're the people who I can really communicate with, because they're not so rigid, and they're able to adjust to environments and situations. And I worked in a lot of different fields, and I was a programmer for a while, and I programmed with IBM, and I moved up in that because I was able to talk to people and people liked me and all of that. So it wasn't because I was great at programming. And then when I realized that it was sucking my soul, then I quit and I just went full-time into comedy. So you have to have the desire to really understand like how the world is changing and be able to adapt to the world. I mean, right now we're in these pandemic times. I think the people who are able to adapt to this the best are people who know how to improvise, because we know that things could change at any minute. Maybe I think I might be generalizing.
Yeah, generalizing. I'm with you.
It's like sometimes the words. But yeah.
The broad in the broad sense.
Yes. But I think that like if we look at like a lot of comedians that really invest in improv or really understand improv, not just do improv or are improvisers, but you
Mm-hmm.
understand it, then I think those are the people that are probably doing the best with the changes that we're going through right now.
Mm,
And
that's great.
I don't know, maybe they aren't, but that's what I think.
You
So
know,
yeah.
and I think it's a good point, because I know there's a lot of people that are like, I miss being in a room with people, because I get this like experience, you know, like you get this like vibe with people, which I agree with. I think there's certain things that are missing in online, but I think there are
Yeah,
certain things online that you miss in the real world,
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
you have a lot of ways to like play to the camera. You know, you can do
Yeah.
this, or like, are you talking to, like, we don't get to see those close-ups
Yeah.
really in a live performance.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the beauty of both, and I think that they're both super valid and fun. And you know, improv might be online for who knows how much longer.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, it's a new vehicle to get this out to other people.
Mhm.
And it provides the opportunity to see people who might not have the lifestyle of being able to make it to like live shows, like 6 times a week, or
Mhm.
maybe who are just starting out or have gone to the other side. I mean, it just provides an interaction with even people in other countries. You can see two people in different countries
Mhm.
improvising with each other, and that's
Mhm.
amazing. Like you're not
It's
always doing it with John, who's like always in your scenes and stuff. He's always
yeah,
talking over you. It's
it's
great.
magical,
Yeah.
because again, at this point in time, like I can literally take classes from anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the
Yeah.
time is a little rough, because it's like, oh, it's 7 p.m. in this time, and it's like, well, that's 2 a.m. for me. I'm not
Right. Yeah.
not
It's
sure
just
I'm
like
feeling that, but you know, it's like it's great, because it's like, and then even then for me when I'm doing improv stuff, I'm like, okay, it's 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 o'clock Eastern, which is eight
yeah.
o'clock, which is 8 o'clock in this. It's 10 o'clock in Greece. I'm like, so 10 o'clock p.m. in Greece is a little, it's like on the cusp. So let me,
Hmm.
like, maybe I can move it up an hour, but then that's 10 a.m. on Pacific on a weekend for people.
Right.
It might. So it's like, it's fun for my brain, because I love to organize that kind of stuff. But
Right. Right. Right.
it's fun to be able to have that experience of improvising, like you said, with people from really anywhere.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see
So
how
great.
different people play.
And it's great because like now I'm performing with a lot of people that I knew in the community, but never had an opportunity or chance to really get together
Mm.
because you have to like rent a room and you have to do some rehearsals or whatever. And
And
now
like
it's just like on the spot, like
traffic in LA.
yeah, traffic. You're like, I don't think so. Where do you live?
Yeah.
So like it's kind of like on the spot. Right now, someone can say, hey, do you want to improvise a scene with me? And um, it's going to happen in 45 minutes. And you could just literally dress from here to here and then do it.
As long as you don't
Nobody
stand
needs to,
up, you're
yeah,
good.
nobody needs to know anything else. It's all leave some mystery. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's a wonderful thing. But I think as an improviser, we can see the wonderful stuff that's coming out of this because we have that ability to
Mhm.
adapt. And that's all, I mean, like it's not all it is, but it's a big part of being a great improviser is that you're able to adapt
Mhm.
to your environment, to the people around you, and all of that stuff.
I love that. And it makes me think of the fact that I feel like I have so much more energy in classes, because I'm not spending the time traveling to and from, or
I
like, you know,
know.
10 o'clock at night, I'm done with my class. I don't have to spend an hour getting back home. I
I
literally am
know.
turning off the computer, going to bed. So
Yeah.
it's a nice experience, because I feel like instead of being like, oh, I gotta get in traffic to go to class, and then I show up to class being like, oh, it took forever to get there. It's like, all right, pop on my computer. It's more like, oh, I've been on the computer all day, but it's like I didn't have to go anywhere. So I
Yeah.
can, like, you know, I can have a snack break in between, or like I can put on some pajamas and like go to class at night in
Right.
pajamas. It, you know, if I'm cold, I can wrap myself in my blanket and like sit in
Yeah.
class, versus
Turn your
lugging
heat
my
up or
blanket with
whatever.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice. So on that note, I know that for me, like there are certain training places that I went to that I was like, this feels right, or other ones that I went to where I was like, I can see why people like this, but it's not my style.
Yeah.
That being said, because you've done a lot of different like improv performances and a lot of different improv training, are there any types of improv that you found to be more exciting than the other, whether it's short
Yeah.
form, long form, narrative genre, or are there any like games that you really find enjoyable to play for warm-ups, or like if you're doing a short form show?
Hmm.
Any of those questions are fair game. I just threw a lot at you, but
Right.
whatever you want to pull from that.
Okay, so you're asking me how tall I am. I'm
Yes.
actually just like 5 feet, so I look a lot. I'm really. I think that
I
it's
do really want to
interesting.
know how tall you are, though.
Yeah, I really am 5 feet. I know I don't seem that way. Feet seem.
Because the
I
shoes.
seem
It's because of the shoes.
shoes. Yes, I will improvise in stilettos. Just letting you know, I will. Haven't done it lately within the past year, but just wait
You
a
know
couple
Mirage
weeks.
is coming because you can hear the shoes.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Yes. And I've been on stage with when they're just like, you know what? And I'm like, I'm on my tippy toes. This is gonna work. I've been in really awesome improv show in heels
Yeah, there you go.
because I was Wonder Woman. So
And again,
what
it's
else?
also it's you, it's your style, and like
Yeah.
that's what's great is that you're able to like express however you want to express
Yeah.
in improv, which is great. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
you can't wear this, you can't. I mean, I would suggest not wearing flip flops, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if
Heels
you
are
want
hard.
to,
I
I
will say
guess
heels are hard.
go for it.
I jumped over, there's the half wall at Second City, and I jumped over that half wall in heels for one of the shows. And that was something that
Nice.
someone wrote something in for me to do. So I had really high, actually boots on, and I jumped over that half wall. And I had to try and do it like a couple times. And I could have broken my neck. Now
But you
that is a
didn't.
liability. Yeah, it's like, but I didn't, and it was dope.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so your question was like, what kind of styles I am drawn to.
Yeah.
I love performing short form just
Mm,
because it can be really goofy and fun. And it's fun for the performer, which I think is what is fun for the audience. Like, I think an audience wants to see a group of people on stage. When I direct, I say this, that love each other. That's what they want to see, because the laughs that you get from improv are different laughs that you get from like a sketch or a script or something like that. You're
mm.
going to get different laughs. They laugh at the fact that we can read each other's minds or that we go along with each other. Or we seem like we gel. And so that's what I love about short form. There's some long forms that I hate deeply. And I think that, we have all these different theaters that have different styles, like you
Mm.
learn, talk about learning the game of UCB, or Groundlings is about character, and you can learn satire with Second City. And I think all of them are great. If you understand that they're not the Bible. So I think I will actually coach teams to create styles
Mm.
of the team. So that's kind of what I do. So it's a hard question for me to answer because it's kind of
Yeah,
like,
sure.
it depends on the people, and it depends on,
Well, that makes me
I don't
think
know.
of iOS when it was level 5B when I took it. I think it was like level 6 and 7 at one point, but it was level
Mhm.
5B, where after the class, you're on your class that you've had for 8 weeks or whatever. You have an 8 week run of a show, but the form is a form that you create.
Yeah.
So you're not doing a Harold, you're not doing a JTS Brown, you're not
Mhm.
doing, whatever. You're doing your own form. And ours was a coloring book, which was really fun because it's like we do scene painting and we're like a coloring book, and then the
Yeah.
stories come out of the coloring book, and then we just go into
Mm.
the seamless transitions into another scene. Or like if someone's smoking a cigarette, we like pull the cigarette and do
Oh,
a whole new
nice.
scene with it, and we can change
Yeah.
it into like a magic wand or whatever. And so
Mhm.
it was fun to be able to play with that. And I think I will tell you with long form, I'm a fan of long form when there's some kind of structure to it. Like, and
Yeah.
by structure, I mean like if it's like a Herald where I know there's certain beats I have to do versus like a montage. Montages kind of bug me because I'm like, what do you want me to do?
I know. There's some about them that seem really self-serving. I mean, even as an audience member, you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're just like, what's happening? You know what I mean? There's so many times that you just can get like lost because there's so much struggle to find what the group mind is there. It
Hmm.
seems like once you find that group mind, then you go out of it. You're like, okay, that's what it is. And then you leave it and you start all over again. That
Hmm.
struggle is difficult to watch.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
hard to
And
sit
like
through.
with the Herald, the audience is rewarded because you see the same characters come back, but in different
Right.
ways. Or like with short form, you get all these fun games where a lot of suggestions are getting thrown out
Yeah.
left and right. It's not just a suggestion at the top and you watch the show. It's like, okay, for this game we need these 3 suggestions, we need some volunteers to help us with these. And so it
Right.
keeps everyone on their toes. And I think that, like you said, short form can be more enjoyable for the performer as well as the audience, because
Yeah.
it allows the audience to interact more with the show
Yeah.
versus like a montage, which I know people love montages, and I think like it's a great way to gauge like in a jam or something where you
Yeah.
just have a bunch of people that are coming together.
Hmm.
But like my brain needs structure. So
I mean, like, I
give me a
remember,
Harold, give me a JTS Brown, give me
right.
a swinging door, give me something.
I remember being in like sitting in the audience of IO West, which was a super duper theater space. So you'd
Hmm.
be in there and you would be able to see one show, and then if you bought a ticket for one show, you could stay for the rest of the night and look at and see all
Which
the other
was
shows.
really nice, and other theaters should consider that. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I'm saying in my word. I mean, like, considering, anyway, you could
Anyway.
sit through and you'd see something that you want to go see, and then maybe you want to stay because all of like the people that you perform with are still at the bar or something, and you're able to see other people. There's something great and horrible about that. I mean, it's great because other people get to see people that you might not have normally seen. But also you also get to see people struggle. So you might have seen like a
Mhm.
really, really dope like group and it sold out, and then right after that it empties and there are like 7 people in the audience, and you see these people doing these montages, and you're like, okay, it's so echoey, and you could hear that, they're struggling to like keep the audience engaged
Mhm.
and laughing and stuff like that. And yeah, I think IO is why sometimes I don't like like a montage, because it
I
feels like it lasts
I
6 years.
I loved IO. It was the first place I ever went to, but I mean, it's very similar. I mean, with like UCB, like every time I go to a show at UCB or IO or even Second City or Groundlings, like I know what kind of show I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, IO is great when it's like, oh, 8 o'clock or like, a musical improv, like outside team. And then 9 o'clock is like a student show. And then 10 o'clock is like the headliner. It's
Hmm.
fun because it's different levels of play and different types. That's fun to see versus like a Herald night, which happens at most theaters. It's like a Herald
Oof.
night. 7 o'clock, there's 2 Heralds. 8 o'clock, 2 Heralds. 9 o'clock, 2 Heralds.
Oh,
I'm like, I'll see one and then I'm like done because it's the same thing. Like,
so
that's when I
hard.
would actually be okay seeing a montage.
Yeah.
If there's all these heralds, like let me see something different. But it's fun, it's fun to see like a herald at 7 and then Armando at 8 and then maybe short form at 9 and then
Yeah.
maybe a herald with a documentary opening at 10. Something that's just like different is
Right.
always fun too.
I
But
think
yeah, but
montages are great for, like you said, like for a level 1 long form class or something. Try and figure out what it is, because the magic of improv to an audience, like I said before, is that it looks like we can read each other's minds. So the
mhm,
laughs are about like 2 people who've come together, like, and had the same agreement without talking. And you're
mhm,
like, oh my gosh, how does that happen? And I think that's cool. But if you see like in a montage, that's all it is for the whole,
mhm,
and then when they get there, you stop. I just can't. It's
mhm,
too much. And I think there's so many like forms that people don't want to see. Some improv is
mhm,
not meant to be seen by an audience.
mhm,
Sometimes it's just for you.
mhm, mhm. Mono scene can be one of those too. I
Mhm,
love
yeah.
I love mono scenes, but it's like if it goes well, it goes well. I mean, it's like I'm watching like a sitcom or whatever,
Yeah.
but if it doesn't go well, it's like you're kind of stuck in that
Yeah.
for the whole 25 minutes or whatever.
I think the thing about like teaching improv or like the different styles is that people need to find what works for them individually and not try
Mm,
and force themselves in these other forms, because something that it shouldn't be that difficult once you understand the concepts and once you agree to like the feeling of improv. It's not that difficult. You don't have to like struggle on a stage.
yeah.
You accept what it is that you do, and then you build on that. You don't have to throw yourself into these types or these
Mm,
forms. It's not working for you. You can be really
mhm,
successful. You don't have to like really struggle for an audience's attention every single time
mhm.
you're on. It's just
And
horrible
that's
to
a big
watch.
thing too, is a lot of times it's like there's sometimes where I'm like, okay, I'm here because I have to be here for class or whatever, but I'm not feeling it tonight. Like I
Hmm.
would much rather play more of a backline support because I know that
Right.
I'm not going to have a great like night of scenes versus other nights where I might come in and be like, guys, I literally have all of the ideas. Let me do all of the scenes.
Right. Right.
And like, and that's where as a team, you're like, okay, Spencer's having a great night. Get him out there, let him
Hmm.
play. The
Hmm.
audience is loving him. Let
Yeah.
him live in that moment
Right.
because I'm having a good night. So let me play in that moment. But there are nights where I'll be like, no, I'll just do a back line. I'll do the
I
button.
know.
I'll and like that's fine. And like that's why you have a team of 8 people because you
Yeah.
have that support, that give and take where there are going to be people. I've seen shows where it's like an 8-person team and it's like 2 people there that night. And it's like, well, it's a
Yeah.
show. And it's like that's what happens.
Hmm.
And so, and having done two prov, I have a two prov partner,
Oh yeah.
and we do two prov. And I've learned that two prov is very difficult because you don't get any rest. You're literally on for the
Yeah.
whole 25 minutes or longer, depending on how long you have. But it's
Hmm.
not like I can like edit a scene and then go sit in the back line. It's like I edit a scene and then I'm in another scene.
Then you're back.
And then
Yeah.
I'm in another scene. But it's also another great way to train your brain and also to really focus on heightened listening and also trust because I have to listen to everything because I'm
Yeah.
constantly in a scene. And
Right.
I can't even like sit in the back line and be like, I can kind of listen to this maybe for a walk on and like
Hmm.
kind of know when to edit it. It's like I have to listen to everything that my scene partner is saying because
Yeah.
we're going to consistently be in this together. And if we bring back characters, and like if he brings back a character that I was playing, then I
Hmm.
have to be his character. So I have to remember what his
I
character did,
know. I know.
which is fun, which is super fun.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm like, okay, we're going back to this scene, and then he switches characters on me, and I'm like, oh wait, now you're my character. Oh gosh, what
Yeah.
did you do?
Right.
Oh
You're just
boy,
like,
what did
wait a
you
minute.
do?
What?
I'm like, wait, who was your character? Oh gosh, what was your character's POV? But
Right.
it makes it more exciting. Anyway,
Oh.
enough about me. I always say that.
Ah,
Enough about me. I feel like
I
it's
want to hear more.
but you kind
More.
of touched on it a little bit about like the success of improv. So
Hmm.
I want to jump around a little bit and ask you, what makes a successful improviser to you?
Hmm. I think like a successful I'm really of the mind that, okay, first of all, improv is not always comedy. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm,
like people always think like with improv, like that improv is just comedy, who's line and all of that. And
nowhere
then
does it
it's
say
like,
comedy in the word improv.
right. It's like, it's not always like comedic.
Yeah.
So I think like going into it and not having that mind, if you also
Mm,
understand that comedy isn't that waka waka, slip on a banana peel kind of stuff. Like that is the guy at a cocktail party and he's
mm.
got tons of people around him and it's great.
Those
He's
little
living
party
his
tricks.
best life.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. He's doing it. He's got lots of olives or something and he's whatever. But like to be like a really the comedians that I see that I really am intrigued by and the ones that are really successful, they are the ones that just speak the truth, so
Mm,
there's so much, but it's not like the truth of the world. It's like the truth of their perspective in life at that time. So that has a lot to do with like knowing who you are as a person
mhm,
and like accepting the things that are super dope about you, but also the stuff that maybe not, that you question about yourself, not what other people are questioning, but you
mhm.
question about yourself. So like for me, I know that my memory isn't perfect. So
Oh,
like if I am
right
in a
there with
scene,
you. Right there with you. I forget, like people are like, "What did you just say?" I'm like, What did I just say? I don't
right?
remember."
It's like I'll be in a scene and someone tells me their name is like Phil, and I'm like, I don't even remember what their name is. So like if I can call that out in a style, my style is to call out the things that are true about me, like and let the audience feel like they're being seen by, if
Mhm,
they're going to be lost, if I'm lost in a scene, I'm like, okay, the audience is probably lost in this scene. And so I need to call that out. So I think it's just like a really good improviser in my idea of it is not to be the performer. It's not the performance of improv, but it's who you are as a person who's able to show others who they are, like, right?
mm, mhm.
That's really deep, but it's like being
I
a
love I love deep
mirror.
on this show. It's
Yeah.
great to have something because again, it's not all about comedy,
Yeah,
right?
they're like,
It's
this
about
isn't
improv.
funny. Yeah. How do I change the channel?
Yeah,
Like,
right?
where's the clicker?
You're
Uh,
stuck now.
yeah. There's no clicker. Sorry.
Yeah. If you change the channel, Mirage is gonna come after you. That's all I got.
Right. Like I'm there. Like, look behind you right now. The thing
With her
is
stilettos.
yeah, I'm 7 feet tall for some weird reason. I buy tall shoes.
Happens.
Yeah, it just feels like, respecting yourself and respecting your audience, but mostly respecting yourself. Because I don't think an audience, I mean, if we're talking about performance on a stage, an audience doesn't want you to play to them. You know what I mean? You're really just playing. I heard that playing the audience, like you're playing back and forth. It's a relationship. And so you're listening to what it is that they're responding to, but you're not trying to find out what they're responding to, right? It's not like you're not like a thirsty person on a Bumble date. You know what I mean? You got to really, you're going back and forth. You're like, this is what I'm giving. And are they responding to this? Are they responding to who I really am? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's give them this and let's move in this direction. And that's where it's fun. I think improv instruction doesn't always honor that. There are a lot it's a really weird world, improv instruction. And so I think that sometimes we say, oh, everything is everything is right. And they say everything is right. And I've talked to Joy Mamie, and one of the things that we kind of like we talk deep about improv all the time. So I think improv is like kind of the key to life, but also and relationships. But I'm divorced. Also, though, if you go back and forth with the, it's like, it's not necessarily that everything is right. It's that you are right. So you have to accept, it's not everything you say is right. It's everything you are is right. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, so if you're on stage and, we have this kind of like thrown out like way of teaching improv where it's like, oh, everything you say is going to be right. And I'm going to yes and it and all of that. That's great. But then you're always trying to search for the right thing to say, which totally messes up
or
anything.
The exception to the rule where you're like, I bet this isn't the right thing to say. So I'm going to say that.
It's always trying to like be the one. And it's not about that. I think if you accept that everything that you are is right and not everything you say is right, because sometimes you say stuff that ain't right. That stuff is not right. Don't say that again.
Yeah, don't say that.
If you
don't say those things. You know what they are.
Yeah, you know exactly what you said. You knew it wasn't right when you came in. Like, don't say it. But if someone else calls you out on that, then that's truth. You know what I mean? So then everything you are is right on the stage. So if you are going to be this person who says those things that you aren't supposed to say, and you have a partner that will call you out on it, I'm gonna watch that show. I'm gonna watch that show. So that's what I think. I just think that being truthful to the way that you're growing as a person, or the things that you feel, I think that makes a good improviser.
I love that. I love that so much, because one of the big things with IO is truth and comedy. It's what you bring to the truth is actually like funny.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that it made it easier for me as an improviser when we would do like little scenes or whatever. And it's like, okay, you're talking about whatever. Whenever I said facts that I knew, one, I didn't have to think at all because it was already stuff I knew. But two, it was still funny because I'm just like, I'm like, well, there was this and that and the other in 1926, and people are like, what? And I'm like, I remember that from history class. And like, I'm just literally spouting off things that actually happened.
Yeah.
Versus me being like, I'm making up something that didn't exist, and now I got to remember what I said.
Yeah.
But even on that, it's I have a story that I actually remembered, which I'm surprised we're talking about memory. But actually, it's a memory about memory. But before I dive into that, what I think is also interesting is you're talking about, like, what is the audience responding to? And I think one thing is, and it might have been Holly Laurent that said this, but if not, it was like Jason or Colleen. I can't remember who it was, but I remember it very specifically. It was like, if the audience is laughing at something, keep doing it.
Yeah.
But if they stop laughing, then the joke's over. And I was like, that's a really good point, because if I'm like, oh, I'm Mighty Man, and people think that's funny, it's like, and throughout the scene, it's like they thought that was funny, so I got to say it again at some point. I'm Mighty Man, but when they don't laugh, I don't want to keep going. I'm Mighty Man, because it's not fun. They're like, okay, the joke's over, we get it. Time out.
It's like it's good. It's like
so it is one of those things where, even though like you said, you want to do it for yourself, which I think is most important, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not believing in it. The audience picks up on that. But you also want to make sure that you're rewarding the audience as well. By rewarding the audience, you're rewarding yourself.
You have to. I mean, I think that anytime people see anything, right, or especially if they see live theater, that we always think. I think when I was in college, I always had this like. I had this teacher or this instructor that was he blew me away. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know life now. But he was saying that everybody, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so smart. And I'm like, I'm going to go out and heal the world. And it was, but he said something like, everybody just wants to be loved. And at that time I was like, oh, that's amazing. And everybody wants to be loved. But like, as I've kind of gone along in life, I realized that it's much simpler than that, that everybody just wants to know that they exist, right? Like they just want to know, hey, I'm here. I exist, right? Okay. You see me, right? Great. But we have to keep asking that question over and over again. But if we, as performers, understand our obligation to let the audience member know, and even our scene partners know that they exist, that they're being heard, that they're being seen, then I think that we're successful. That if I say if I say, I understand, if someone is in a scene with me and they understand that I don't have a great memory, and we're in the scene and we do like asides about like, okay, I'm not really sure what was going on in that scene. Like we're being someone in the audience who's like, that didn't make any sense at all, but we're being truthful in it. And I understand my partner understands what I find is a limitation in me, then I feel comfortable and I feel loose and I feel safe. And then the audience feels comfortable and they feel loose and they feel safe, and it's a much more enjoyable experience, which I think that's where we need to go with improv, like actually make it watchable. And sometimes
and going off of what you said, one thing that I find, I actually have like two quick examples of it. Where for whatever reason, I'm pretty good at remembering names that people call me, but I can't for the life of me remember what I called someone else.
That's hilarious.
But like, I remember recently, like this was like a couple weeks ago in a rehearsal, we were doing a scene where it was like, I was playing like this like chef who's like, you're not doing anything right. And one person called me like Father John. And so I was like, yes. And then someone else later was like, Uncle Phil. And then we did this switch characters where we switched characters. So when someone else was playing the chef, I went, Uncle Father Phil John, listen. And like, and that's funny. And I think that like, it's like a moment where it's like, I'm not negating either person's choice. I'm yes-anding both.
Oh yeah.
But there's also another game that could be played there where it's like someone said Father John, Uncle Phil, Brother Mike, like just constantly changing the person's name. And you know that it's that person. And like, that's another way that you can yes-and this game.
Yeah.
Another example I have is when I was at the DCT. I remember it was a honeymoon show. I got to play for my birthday that day. And I remember like, I think it was like, I was like Paige and someone else was Mike or whatever the characters were. And someone comes up and he forgot what our names were. And he goes, all right, Charlie. And, he keeps talking and he goes, oh, by the way, my name is Mike. Because we had named each other, the two of us. And so the guy was like, right, Mike, Mike, Charlie. And then he starts talking and go, oh, actually, I'm Paige. And then he goes, right. Oh, that's right. I'm Charlie. I'm Charlie. And we're like, good. No, you're Mike. You're Mark. You're Mark. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. My middle name. Yeah, Mark Charlie. So eventually we got to this like name of Charlie. But because the one person was like, by the way, my name is this, then it was like, I have to do the same thing to support that game that's being played. And then the person who called us Charlie also played the game of not getting his own name right. And so it was this fun thing that it's like, again, this is like these ideas of like supporting your team or being a successful improviser is picking up on that. Like they just changed the name, but I don't want to correct it by saying that's not my name because now I'm saying no to that. But it's like, I can have fun with this.
Oh, absolutely. Like even with, I mean, I think sometimes, especially newer performers, they make things so complicated. They think
Hmm.
about what they think is funny or what they think the audience is going to think is funny, and they get all into that deep stuff, and then it takes you on this into this world that you have no idea what's going on. You know what I mean? You're like, is
Hmm.
everybody just in a hot tub? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
how is this a bank or a hot tub? So like the audience is feeling that, right? They're just like, they're in awe, one, that you're on the stage and that you're a comedian. So like, let's let it just be that.
Yeah.
You don't have to get so deep into it. So like in a scene where it's like, Uncle Father Phil John, then if someone else comes in and they're like, Professor Uncle Father Phil John, and then it's like President Uncle Father Phil John, and
Hmm.
it's just more and more. That's what an audience wants to feel like.
Yeah.
The person who maybe made those mistakes or whatever, feel like they got me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
And
everybody
it feels
feels
like
safe.
improv because it's improv. It feels
Yes.
like it's been made up on the spot.
Yes. And even if you're in a bank, like if someone is so deep and you're in a hot tub and you're like, is this a bank or a hot tub? If you call that out, you're just like, I'm completely lost. As one of the people in the scene, I'm not really sure if we're in a bank or a hot tub, or you even name it the hot tub bank or whatever. You're
Hmm.
just playing into the truth. And I think that a lot of performers want to hide whatever flaws they bring to the stage. And that is such a horrible thing in comedy. Whatever
Mm.
flaws you think that you're hiding from people, like show that.
Mm.
That's what's going to make
Hmm.
you that voice, your voice, like nobody else can get into that. You know what I mean? Nobody
Hmm.
can hack that or steal that. You got to show that. That's what
Hmm.
your therapy is.
Oh
The
yeah.
audience wants to see other people who are like me. Like they're not just
Hmm.
super perfect people up here who have great memories and can do stuff that we can't. They're just like me. They see me. I'm alive. Okay. So that's,
Hmm.
they can go home and actually
Yeah.
get
Oh
through
yeah,
it.
and luckily I've had it where I've done it with like my two prop partner, and he'll name me like Jim. I keep saying like real like simple names. I've actually found it easier for me to like name people that are like not like straight one syllable white guy
Mm.
names,
Uh-huh.
but to like to say like Zachary
Mm-hmm.
or Caroline, like things that are like going to be easier to remember than like Sam, John, Jim, Bob.
Yeah.
I've been called Bob so many times in scenes, but my scene partner, it's like I'll call him Timothy and he'll call me, uh, Sal. I'm literally couldn't think of any names for a second. Sal, and then I'll go back and I'll be like, yeah, I totally understand. Me as Sal and you as you, my friend, whose name is and then if he can't remember, it's like, it's not important. The point is that I'm Sal.
Yeah.
Like, and
Right.
I think that that's great because my partner will know that like I can't remember your name, and if you do,
Mm-hmm.
say it, and if not, let's figure out how we can fix it.
Right.
Or it's like if it was Timothy, it's like Alan, and it's like, yeah, I go by my middle name, Alan. I don't really even remember my first name because I go by my
Right.
middle name.
I
Like,
don't even, it's not important.
and it's
I
great, and I
love
think
that.
it goes into the idea of like, when you say like everything you do for yourself is right, because I had no confidence going into improv at all because of things in my personal life that kind of drained my energy of
Right.
the confidence that I had.
Mm.
And so it was like one of those things where like building that confidence, just believing in myself allowed me to be more confident in my choices. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm.
The worst I can do is not have a great scene in
Yeah.
class. Like stakes are so low. It's like it's improv.
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
stakes are so low.
I mean, it's just like, I think you go on stage, that kind of energy of fear, you know what I mean? Or the energy of worry.
Mhm.
I think that's what causes a lot of people to not be successful. You know what I mean? Just take whoever
Mhm.
you are and find the things that you're comfortable with when it comes to those flaws or whatever, or
Mhm.
just make them, like call them out, and then like just be, like we should be in life. This is where it all comes back. Like you can just be. You don't have
Mm.
to have like this great like idea of like where our scene is going to go or whatever. Just like be. There was one show that I had where everybody knows don't have a great memory, so I kept calling. Yeah, we had different scenes and I kept calling um the women of the scene, I kept saying Samantha, sometimes the men. And so every scene we went into, I was like, yes, Samantha. And sometimes Samantha's like my daughter. And sometimes Samantha's like, like my son or like my dad or whatever. And then audience could see that. And it was almost like, oh my gosh, she's making a mistake. But then when it was supported by my teammates, then it's like, this is brilliant, you know? So it doesn't have to be so hard or so complicated. It could just be like just let go. I don't know.
No, I love that. I love it. It's so interesting how like it's like, okay, the first, couple lines just get out the who, what, and where, and you're like, okay, great. And then you're like, what is a who, what is a what is a where, how do I do this? Oh gosh, I can't even think. It's like it's like do these silly things where it's like, oh, thank you so much, Becky, for meeting me here at this like, why can I not think of a location, any location?
It could be on the sidewalk, whatever.
And it's like, even with like the hot tub, the bank thing, I was even thinking it's like, I don't know if we're in a hot tub or a bank, but I am living for this.
I love it.
And it's like,
there's like the
other person can make a choice, or it's just like, you know what? I don't know what it is either, but I feel like I'm living life to the fullest or whatever. Like, it might be nice for the audience to know what it is, but at the end of the day, do we really need to know if it's a hot tub or a bank?
If you don't know, if the worst that could happen is someone is driving in their car and they're like, I hated that hot tub bank scene. It just didn't make any sense to me or whatever. But they're talking about your scene. Really, if it's in a bank, and it went as perfectly as they taught you at that one facility and you were the top, then nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to remember that. Like, people only remember about 15 seconds of every show that they watch.
I will be hard pressed if I remember a scene after I did it. Like, it's like, maybe I will do it, but it's like, okay, I got to go back and like, with Harold, it's like, okay, I got to bring back the beats. And I'm like, what did I do in the first scene? I'm like, what? I'm like, someone's going to bring me back out and do something, and I got to respond to it. And I literally don't remember what my character was.
They're not going to remember. You know what? The people in the audience too are only going to remember the feelings that they associate with you as an improviser, or as a performer. So if you are outside and they see you and they feel like compelled to tell you, oh, you were great or whatever, or maybe they're just a little bit intimidated by you or whatever, but they don't remember the specifics. They may remember like 15 seconds, like I said, like, I remember the hot tub bank and that was great, but they are really going to remember the feelings that you brought to them. And if it's something that is positive or exciting, then you're successful. And it doesn't matter if you never remember a name ever. It doesn't matter if you ever know how to get out the who, what, where. And you may have gotten that note from an improv instructor and they say, you know what, you just are not doing this. Like, this is why you can't get to level 3 or whatever. But that might be your thing. It is not like your thing to like sabotage a scene, but that's what you're working with. That's one of your tools. If you don't remember the other person's name, then that's something that I can play with you on, like, so great. Like, then I'm like, oh, wow, he doesn't remember who he named me. Let's go with this. There's a game for you right there.
Oh, so many.
Yeah. It's
so many. Yeah. I'm even thinking if it's like, if I named you like Tiffany or whatever, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's my name. And I'm like, is it? Well, it is now. And it's like, but wait, what was it? No, it's Tiffany. It's Tiffany. Like, it's like, or it's like this game of like, no, it's not my name, but every time it's like, no, it's not my name. And it's like, please keep telling me, no, it's not my name. So I never get your name right. And it's like, so there's a lot of games you can play, like you said, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to dive into a couple more, I don't want to say intense questions. It's like intense, but like big questions. I've prepped you on these, so you kind of have an idea.
We had deep discussion.
But before I do those, actually, do you have any plugs or pitches before I forget that you want to like throw out into the ether?
Yeah, so I am kind of I don't know, it's not a creator, whatever, of a group called Hollywood Accountability that both was started with me and my friend Huey Stonefish. He's recently created a company called Stonefish Productions with Avery Stonefish, and I am the new artistic director of that company.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. So we have a lot of things coming out. One of the things that I would love to pitch are just the roundtables that I'm doing right now. I'm really just trying to engage with the studios in the Hollywood area and the theaters to create mentorship programs, one-on-one programs for people in the areas of diversity. So then we have those skills, and then we take that into our community and do one-on-one mentorship, and then it just spreads. So just all things Hollywood accountability. That's what I want to pitch.
Great. I love it. And I
Yeah.
think that if you're not sure what that means, you definitely should be following it.
Yeah.
For the latest and greatest trends that hopefully will stay and not just be trends or fads, but actually will be the future of improv and comedy and Hollywood.
Yeah.
That would be exciting, which leads me into this question. I actually found a segue that works.
Ooh.
Wow. And now I just messed it up by saying all of
You
this,
have to
but
do
that's okay.
your
Oh yeah. It was like this,
the
like
maracas thing.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was like this. Yeah. So because of the Hollywood accountability, this is a question. I think this is the first time I've asked this on the Improv Summit, and what better person to ask than you, Mirage? With pandemic kind of happening, a lot of stuff was going crazy in the comedy world, the Hollywood world, the improv world. But are there any changes or I forgot how I worded it, but it's a great question, I think.
Yeah, I love it. Keep going.
Are there any changes or anything that you're seeing in the works or in talks that you're excited for the accessibility, the adaptability, the change that is the improv and the improv comedy scene for the future? I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I just can't explain it well, but
I'm
you know
right
what
here.
I'm saying. I prepped you for it ahead of time.
Yeah, I know the question already. Yeah, I think that the thing that I'm most, so I'm going to take that in two ways, because as performers, the thing that I'm so excited about is the community of positivity that's been brought within the last year. Not just Hollywood accountability in itself, but the community of comedians that have decided to take care of each other throughout this whole pandemic. I think along with that comes our ability as performers. It's always assumed that we're able to just speak up and we're talking to people and we're quitting jobs and stuff all over the place. But we're people who have insecurities and we have needs. And a lot of performers don't have the ability to speak out and say the things that we need. We're the people who try and keep all the balls in the air. So what I really love is the ability that we are having to not make things always this funny conversation, but to use our voices. And I think the acknowledgement of the problems within our community, putting voice to it, putting faces to the things, putting leaders to the changes of what's happening in our community, that's really exciting, because these are things that are started in name. Throughout almost every theater, comedy theater, there may be like a diversity scholarship or something, but changing what it means to provide opportunities to people in a diverse community, changing what that means, and not just slapping a diversity scholarship, which actually pits a lot of the same type of people against each other in search of like one opportunity. So yeah, I think that for our community to talk to each other and not always fight for that scrap of whatever's out there, I love that. And I love the growth that's happening right now. As far as for the audience, this kind of stuff, like having the ability to improvise with people across the world, having the ability you don't have access to maybe a theater, but you have access to a computer and internet. And so you are creating a show. I love all of the stuff that's being put out by people who don't know, who didn't know that they could do something like this before. And you're able to adapt. It's better than any comedy class you could ever take, is being able to get out there and just fail a lot and then figure out which way to go. So I think, that's a really, it's a hard like answer, I guess. It's not really like a direct answer. Like, I am really
Sure.
happy that, CBS has changed their diversity program. They have, and it's cool. But I think there's more. I think just having the ability to listen. This is just
Mm.
a first step. But I think now over this year, performers on any level are being listened to if they have the strength to speak up. So
Mhm.
that's what I love.
And I love that. And I think it's again, like you said, the first step is to listen. But the next step outside of that is to listen. It's to listen and acknowledge and then make the change.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like an overnight thing. We can't just say, all right, okay, now we woke up, everything's fixed. That's
Right.
how it is. Because who knows if and when the whole thing of the entire world is going to be fixed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But the idea of it's like there's like, what is it? All talk and no game.
Mm-hmm.
There are places where you're going to start seeing that it's like, yes, we want to do all of this, and then kind of sit back and be like, well, now that we're not in the hot seat,
Yeah.
versus, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was happening, or we did know this was happening, but we are vowing to fix it now, and this is how we're starting to implement things and
Mm-hmm.
seeing it come to fruition. So
Yeah.
I think that it's almost like a telltale, I guess, of like
Yeah.
which in general, in the improv and the comedy and in Hollywood in general, who's willing to make those changes and who is not.
Yeah. And I mean, as we start to come back slowly and slower and slower, we start to understand that some people are going to be those people who are just like, yeah, I'm making all these changes. And now I have like this committee and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, this committee is just you and your dogs. This isn't real. You have to really like put this stuff forward. But our industry is used to just slapping names on things or slapping titles, on people, or really, really in the business of tokenism, which you don't have any Black people. We're going to have one Black disabled woman from a LGBTQ
Who's over
community.
40.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so this
So
is
now
what
we've
we're doing.
covered all our bases.
Yeah. So now you can't say that. She's the person, she works in the office and she's the one you sign up with. You can't, it's not good enough. So I think in the changes that are coming up, to be able to challenge and question those changes, that's what the next step is, to see what the world is that we go back into, or what the world is right now, and challenge and question the changes that are out there, not just accept whatever comes next. And I mean, some of the stuff is dope, but some of it isn't good enough, and a lot of it isn't good
And
enough.
again, it's not, I think what's interesting is a lot of people think it's like an either or. Either it's got to be this way or that way. Keep what you have, just add everything else to it.
Right.
Change the things that aren't working, keep the
Right.
foundation the same, but fix the outside, fix the
Absolutely.
bricks, fix the layers.
Yeah.
But keep the foundation. The foundation is sturdy. You just have to have something to build off of that's going
Right.
to make it better. And I think
It's-
that's what people are forgetting, is it's not like tear the whole building down.
Yeah.
It's, as a metaphor, it's like literally take down
the asbestos.
bricks. Take the
asbestos out.
Exactly.
It's like, we just don't want to die of cancer in here. Like, just
maybe
take it out.
repaint it. Repaint the gold chips.
Right.
Slap a new
Yeah.
a new frame on it. Make it look different. Make it feel different. Make it different.
We're
We're not saying completely shift it and change it and completely start from scratch. We're just saying build off of the foundation.
And I think a lot of people ask, especially at the very beginning of the whole change of the industry, is that people would ask me, what is it that you want to see? And I'm like, that depends on what people do. I mean, like, there are a lot of things I want to see. I want to see people being able to like fly on stage without cords, but that's not what we're doing. It depends on what it is that the theater.
I mean, I'd love to see $1 million on my bank account.
Just like every time.
I mean, what are we
love
talking
to
about
see.
here? I mean, I'll take that unemployment, but then I gotta pay. Then I gotta pay it back anyways. So what's the point?
I want to see like really like great abs with no work. I don't understand. Like, I want to be able to like come. I want to see.
If you figure that out, Mirage, you tell me, because I need to know that. I need to know about the abs.
It just like, we just have to see what people do. That's part of like the improv background. That's part of the whole thing. It's like, we don't just say, do this and this is what it needs to look like. This isn't something that we created. So we're saying you need to change it. If you go and you change it and we're like, we're talking about this kind of change. If they're working, it's a conversation, it's an improv scene. That, yeah.
And again, going back to the house metaphor, it's not like construction is going to go and build a house in a day. It's not
Right.
going to happen. And we're
Hmm.
not asking it to. We're just
Right.
saying, hey, over time, like let's make it look nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's provide some
That's it.
opportunities for people who don't get opportunities.
Yeah.
And then in that, if we really look at it, then everybody has a great show. Everybody has a great experience, like not just the people of that particular marginalized group.
Hmm.
It's like the audience is going to see something that's more authentic. You're going to see something that you like, see stuff that's actually funny
Uh-huh.
or that's entertaining or that represents you.
Because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure white males are not the majority in America. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that men are not the majority, and I'm pretty sure that white people are not the majority.
Right. I
But
think, yeah.
somehow in improv and comedy, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's so weird about that is that this is the excuse that comes a lot in casting rooms, which I've been in a lot, like as in the cast on the casting table,
Mhm.
is that, we don't want to have someone who just fills this criteria based on the fact that they're a Black woman or whatever. We want them to actually be funny and talented. There are two problems with that. One is you're not training the Black woman the same way that you're training this white
Mhm.
male guy that came in that you might not even know what his name is.
Mhm.
You're not doing the same type of training. You're not giving the same type of opportunities. And the other thing is that we've adjusted to the standard that this is what funny or talented or success is. And it's buying into the white male like structure.
Mhm.
I am able to be successful and funny if I understand how to be a white man
Mhm.
on stage.
Also,
That's
the
insane.
expectation with
Yeah.
casting, it's like, well, they have this Black woman has to be funny, so I'm already expecting it to be better than than it should ever possibly
Yeah.
be because you have to give me 180% instead of the
Hmm.
150 that you're
Oh,
going to
she's
give me.
amazing. Have you seen her? She's fantastic. And it's always got to be that.
Mhm.
It can never be the standards that we hold exactly. It's not the same. It's
You
like
can't be
two.
as good, you have to be better, and by better they mean like you have to be
Mhm.
almost impossibly better.
Yeah. I'm like, what we need is to all, and I say this a lot, we want the opportunity to fail just like anybody
Mhm.
else. Give me the same opportunity to fail that you give anybody
Mhm.
else.
And it
And
happens with disability in
yeah,
casting. Sorry to cut you off. I was
no,
thinking
keep
that
going. Yeah.
it's like with like characters who are blind, like at least give me the chance to audition. Whether or not I get it is one thing, but to
Yeah.
not give me the chance to audition for a lived experience,
Yeah.
like
Right.
it's like and then also casting someone who is not blind or has no vision
Please.
impairment. It's like first of all, if you gave me the audition, that's one other concern, but it's like if you don't even give me the audition and then you give it to someone who can't
Oh,
even see to play a character who's blind, but even then like give me a chance to play a character who's not blind. Like I don't
right.
want to just play a character who's blind.
Right. I mean, but at least let me have the representation to
Mhm,
be able to be in the writer's room, in the casting process,
mhm,
in the directing roles that are available in production, all of that. Give me the opportunity to provide true, authentic voice
mhm,
if you're going to choose to represent me on, in this medium. My
mhm.
daughters and I were just watching a show where someone they suddenly were blind, but they were blind from the whole time in the movie, like from the very beginning to the end. And we were like, why is this lady not truly blind? You know what I mean? There was no
Mhm.
reason for it. This didn't make any sense.
Was it
And
a
now
TV
we're
show on the
able to,
CW?
this was a movie.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
remember what the movie is. Do you remember? Oh, she's looking at it. But
Is it-
it's huh? Sightless? Okay, Sightless. It's a movie called Sight.
Oh, yeah.
Have you
Okay,
seen
yeah,
it?
uh-huh.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen it, but
Oh,
I know
okay.
about it.
Well, she's like, I mean, she's not blind. And so like even the way she's acting, it's a very actory type of blind that
Mhm.
she's doing, like this whole looking down and looking away from
Do you know
wherever
how
the
many
sound is coming from. You're like, that doesn't even make sense.
the number of improv scenes I've seen people do where they're playing a character who's blind and somehow they just bump into everything because oops, they're so
Oh,
blind. It's like,
right.
but people
Yeah.
who are blind, if you we don't bump into things.
Yeah.
Like there are ways around that. And it's like, or it's like, oh, I'm doing this thing. I'm gonna be a pilot. Like, oh, like it's like world's worst. Like doing that game when
Yeah.
it's like world's worst, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the blind doctor. I'm the blind
Yeah.
pilot. It's like that's not the world's worst. Like as someone who can't see, who's not allowed to fly a plane,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be a good pilot. I know
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
I don't want to be a pilot. Because to go up and do a scene where it's like world's worst pilot, and you say that I'm a blind pilot
Yeah.
as the world's worst, it's not funny.
It's not funny. There are problems with that game
There
as
are
a
now. I
whole.
think now, like literally now
Yes,
thinking about it, I'm
I'm
like,
thinking about it too. I'm like, there are real big problems with that game
it's a very
because,
ableist game, actually.
yeah, it provides, it gives voice to a lot of stereotype. Ugh.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I got to do something about that. We got to do something about that.
Yeah, we do.
But like, also,
What about world's best? Like,
yeah,
just making
exactly.
world's
What is the
best.
world? Thank you. I
I
mean,
mean,
in this movie too, there were different things that didn't make sense, that you have to do for the sake of like filming. She had a lot of light, like she was supposed to be purely blind. So she had someone who was there. She wasn't able to see anything, but she had all of her lights on, and she was never like acknowledging that, this is what, of course she had these lights on because it's easier to film, but it didn't make sense in the structure of the storytelling, which would be something that I feel if someone was within the script writing process, that we'd be able to really like acknowledge these different things. Like also another thing that we noticed, that she was so angry with this, like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm angry. And instead of like any type of acceptance, and that is
mhm,
a very big stereotype
mhm.
within movies that don't have
She's
proper
playing
representation.
as if blindness is less than.
Yeah, like
Um,
she hates it so
and
much. And
also,
yeah.
from lived experience, if I'm in a room with no lights on, I can tell the difference between a room with no lights on and a room with a bunch of lights on,
Mm-hmm.
even if I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
tell
Mm-hmm.
because when I close the eye that I can see out of, like I can see it's just black. I mean, I don't see anything, but I can tell when it's like a dark room because it's
Yeah.
much heavier black versus like maybe it's like a dark gray. Like there is a difference in what I
Mm.
see. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily see anything, but I
Right.
can decipher light and dark.
See, and
I
that's
can do
something
that.
that needs to be added in with it, with the production, within the direction, within
Mhm,
script writing. We need to have that kind of voice to say it makes the whole experience richer. We're
mhm,
like, we are able to be these people and understand that if at some point of your life you become someone who doesn't have the same like uh, physical sense that you first came into the world with, that it's not the end of your life, that you don't have to be like completely miserable, that you could be happy and fulfilled,
mhm,
because change isn't always scary and terrifying and horrible.
mhm.
And I think, yeah,
It happened to me when I was 10. So I mean, the first 9 years of my
yeah,
life, I could see out of two
right,
eyes, according to my mom and my parents. But like, I don't remember it. I really don't remember it, which is like, I think at one point it was like that kind of sucks, but I don't remember it. So this is how I see now is how I've
right,
lived for as
yeah,
far as I can tell, and this is what the experience has been like for me. And
right,
so and then people always have this whole thing of like, well, if you could see out of both eyes again, would you choose to? And I'm like, I mean, sure, of course I would, but
right.
also like it's going to be a completely different experience for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it's like a weird question to just ask somebody like, if you could, would you? I'm like, If
Yeah.
you could, would you? Like, I like, it's like one of those weird questions of like, it actually feels like a very ableist kind of question of
Oh
I
yeah.
just want to know, like, if you could do this, would you consider
Would
doing
you
it?
change who you are?
Like,
And they do the same thing like as with race a lot too, where it's like, oh, there's a white man and he turns into a black woman, or in other things that I've written where there's the idea that as a black woman or as someone who's not a white man, that we would much rather be a white man, or we would much rather be white and our lives will be easier. And it just is totally mind-boggling that that is not true. Like that you can be happy with who you
mhm,
are, and that is absolutely not something that you might want to change. That you have the right to be happy with who you are or your
mhm,
circumstance, and you can, and that's okay. Like you
mhm,
don't have to take things as if this is a horrible state to be in, and doing so is a big part of
mhm.
why people treat people the way that they do. And
Yep.
so, yeah.
We're getting there as a
Yeah,
society. We're getting there. We took a couple steps back, but we'll hopefully take a
keep
couple steps
plugging.
forward. As Paula Abdul once said, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. We come together because opposites attract.
Yeah, and she
I
was
mean,
having like a thing with a cartoon cat. You know what I mean? There are the
it's
possibilities,
humans and animals. They got along in 1984 or five or
right?
six or whatever.
The
Why
choreography
can't all
was
humans get
tight,
along?
right?
Like, what is
There's
this?
it's like people
Anyway,
think there's not enough space on the earth for everybody.
which
And
it's clear that there is.
yeah, there's time, like we don't have to like be fighting for the same piece of land all the time. You know what I mean? Like why not figure out where it is that you um feel the most you. That's what I love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really am very like critical of some things that involve a lot of like people of color and a lot of different types. But the movie Soul was pretty dope just because it had that message. People might have things, but like we never had a black male character within any real Disney sense that wasn't a villain or evil or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that was great, but also the idea that you don't have to come here and you don't have to play into the expectations of your environment all the time. You
Yeah.
can be, and that's enough. And by being that person the best you are, it could be really truly awesome. It could be amazing, and you can
Mm-hmm.
contribute just by being here. You don't have to prove your worth to be here. It's like the fact that you are here, you've
Mm-hmm.
already done that. So what's next? So yeah.
It's true. It's true. Well, Mirage, this has been great. I have one last question for you,
Okay.
and it's the reason that the Improv Summit exists, as we've already mentioned prior off camera before.
Mhm.
But the reason I'm doing this Improv Summit is because I always, before pandemic, and even still now during pandemic, I get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, you're the improv guy that's my friend," which is like, "You're my improv friend." I'm like, "All right," but they always ask me like, "Spencer, where should I take improv? You've taken a lot of improv,"
Yeah.
and I have a hard time answering that question because I feel like there's so much to it. But if someone came up to you and said, "Mirage, where should I take improv?" What's one tip or one trick that you would provide them to get them started on their journey in improv?
Yeah. I think that the structure of improv and like where you okay, so I think some of the best training for improv is in within short form community. Like I think that if you go and you try and just jump into long form, it's going to be miserable for you. It's going to be miserable for the audience. It's going to be who has to come see you on that first show, and it's going to be miserable for the teacher who's teaching you. I think that I think though in that understand that the improv instruction that you're given is probably not right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not what you need. A lot of it is I would try to take a class on finding your voice first.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a comedy class, maybe not. And then you can jump into the world of comedy with the understanding of the stereotype things that you have to learn. If you didn't have a dad that went down to the lower 48 all the time and brought it up to you when you were just a little kid in Alaska, you have to like just know what parts of you are trying to hide as a comedian, or just as a person who wants to perform. And then take whatever class you want, understanding that you're probably not going to be getting the right, the education that you need. I would make it short form anywhere. And then I would come back and try and, it's hard because I'm just like, you should take a class with me because I will teach you all this stuff. It's just really a realization of your truth. It's not really, you're not going to really get it until you get that realization of what your voice is and who you are. It doesn't take 6 years, and it doesn't take you having to like travel to India and witness a murder or anything like that. You can know what it is, but you have to know what you're trying to hide from.
And again, if you're going through a program and you've taken 1 or 2 levels and you're like, I'm really not buying, I'm not digging this, I'm not feeling it, maybe don't keep going. Maybe find a different program, because I know for me, I knew exactly the second I walked into a class, I was like, oh, I feel this. Or like, not really for me, not feeling this one.
And it could be an instructor. Sometimes you don't understand, like you don't speak the same language as the instructor, like
been there, done that,
and just know, like you said, get out of it. Don't stay there. That's like a bad relationship. Just get out. Like, and if you are in something that feels better for you, stick with that. Know that that this is just a person too that's trying to figure out how things change. The rules of improv changes just as much as life changes, just as the decades change. It's going to be different after the pandemic. So how are we going to teach after that? How do you teach over Zoom? How do you do, like, if you were somebody who started improv on the Zoom class, you're going to be different on stage. So what is that going to look like? If you're mainly, you might kill in a Zoom meeting or Zoom show, and then all of a sudden, like on stage, you're like, what's going on? I have to wear pants to this show? Like, this
bright lights, people, like, what? Which is interesting, because I found myself much more intimidated on Zoom, because literally I'm looking at my camera and I have no idea who's behind that camera. Like, I have no idea who's watching or whatever. But like when I'm on stage, I can see, and I mean, I probably shouldn't be like looking, there's 53 people in the audience or whatever, but I can kind of see the faces. I can see the energy. I can feel the energy.
Right.
But on Zoom, I'm like, hi, whoever's there, like,
Have you ever done a Zoom where they have everywhere, it's a closed Zoom, and they have all of the audience in kind of with you? So either their cameras are on and you can see them like getting up and going to get some like water and stuff, and you're like,
I've not done the whole cameras on thing, but I've been in like the same room with everyone, but they have their cameras off. But it's like,
a lot.
It's a lot. Speaking of a lot, Mirage, this has been great. And I said that was the last question I had for you, but I actually lied.
Oh, I love it when you lie.
Every time on this improv summit. And the last question is just, we've been talking about improv. Would you like to do some improv?
I would love to do some improv. Yes.
Great, let's do it. And then the question I have another question actually. Okay. Would you like to do like a short form game, or do you want to do a long form scene? I'll leave it up to you based on.
I know I talked a lot of mess about long form before, but I think we can do that. I think that'll be fun because I think it'll be great. Like, we could do short form anytime, but long form is great.
Let's do it. And then I'm going to use a suggestion generator. The suggestion options are, I'll let you pick location, relationship, or word.
Word. Let's see.
Word. All right. And then because it's Zoom, improv, do you want to initiate or do you want me to initiate? Just to make it clear.
Yeah. Why don't you initiate and I'll go off camera.
Okay, great. And then either one of us can call the scene at the end. We'll keep it like 2 minutes or so, like a regular old long form scene. All right.
I'll go a long time, just letting you know. I could. Yeah. We could go into like tomorrow, and I'll be like,
right.
So what's the resolution? Yeah.
The suggestion is, I'm not going to use ice cream because we've already talked about ice cream. Right. Suggestion is going to be forgery. Forgery. All right. Thank you, forgery.
Thank you, forgery.
Yeah. I gotta say, Diana, these paintings, they look like the real ones. I mean, I think we can get away with this.
Yeah, thank you. I am. So for the color red, I used ketchup. I mean, I know it's crazy, but I don't actually have paint. Um,
That's
I,
even better.
I appreciate that. I mean, I really care
Cheap.
what you. It's cheaper. And during the pandemic, I don't have a lot of money. Um, so I appreciate you coming out of your room and taking a look at what I've been doing over the past 7-8 months. Yeah, thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, Diana. I mean, I feel like, and this might sound a little crazy, a little wild, but I think you could sell these for a lot of money. Like, I mean, they look like the real thing. Like
Mm,
that looks like Mona Lisa. That looks
really?
like Starry Night. That looks like The Scream. I mean, I clearly can see what work you put into these.
Yeah, I mean, but do you think that it's a problem that I've painted it on fitted sheets? I don't know how to, I think I chose the wrong medium or method, or
I
I
think,
don't know.
I mean, honestly, like edible art, I don't know if that even exists, but like, I mean, that's a whole new thing. Like you can have your paint and eat it too, like I feel like it's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of you just kind of created a whole new concept, I think.
You know what? I think that, yeah, this is so great because I believe in your opinion so much, as the creator of the game Bubble Art, and I don't even know why you chose to partner up with me as a roommate, except for the fact that you were going to get evicted. I just really, it's hard to be a fan of somebody that you live with. Is just all I'm saying. It's really hard. So I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try edible art. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can change the name if you want, but I mean, I know
Well,
it's
no, I'm not changing the name.
I know my bubble art isn't the most exciting, but again, it was cheap. People love bubbles. I mean, why not, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
I think edible art. People love food. They love to eat, and like you can be like, look at this painting I have. Wow, it's amazing. And then when your guests leave, you can just eat it, and then you don't have any of the space. You don't have to save the space.
Right. I mean, and there are people out there that aren't poor like us. There are people out there that can spend money
Hmm.
on things that maybe we can't.
Like guacamole at Chipotle.
Right.
It's extra like $3.
You see, there's no guacamole in my painting because we don't have that kind of money,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I just want to ask you, and I never ask you because you really don't come out of your room that much. So this
I'm a bit of
is
a
exciting.
hermit.
You are, but I'm excited about this moment. What happened to your money? I just, I'm just a person you met, at the bus stop, and I don't get why,
Yeah.
you're
Well,
not rich anymore.
I mean, a bubble art didn't hit off as well as I'd hoped it would. It's a great idea. I love the
It
idea.
was great.
Um,
It took off.
but
Everybody was doing that.
yeah, but then it kind of dried up. People kind of got over bubble art, and I feel like that's what happens with art sometimes. Is you just kind of are over it, But I feel like it's different with yours because people will never get tired of food.
Yeah,
So yeah, people pay for charcuterie trays. Those are like $85, and it's just cheese and ketchup,
that
and
is
like
true.
some meat and stuff. And you've already got cheese
True.
and ketchup, much cheaper than a charcuterie, and it feeds a lot more people.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
spent all my money.
you spent it.
Mhm.
But I just don't understand because I came here, I provided all of the furniture and I provided, he didn't have any electricity. It doesn't matter because I'm
Yeah.
a fan. And you require me to call you Mr. Landon, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep doing it. Um, it just you were so big before, and now you're not. It's weird.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I didn't mean to make you have that kind of face.
I just want to be in the spotlight again.
Yeah. I get that.
and you can get me there.
I, I don't know if I'm as talented as you think I am.
But people love food.
I think that's a basic thing. It's a basic need, and I appreciate that perspective. But I'm not sure that I wanted this to look like Mona Lisa. To me, that looks like Morgan Freeman. That's what I was painting, and so I'm not really sure how to know that Morgan Freeman equals Mona Lisa. I think that's something that only you can do. You know,
You're
I,
right.
I
Yeah, I mean, my interpretation maybe I mean maybe a little off. I mean, I don't know what the artist envisioned, obviously, but I feel like if you sell them as really famous pieces of work, as
yeah.
famous pieces of art, like the Mona Lisa, which is, I know, a Da Vinci piece. I don't know what else he's done, but I know he did the Mona Lisa. I just did bubble art. I didn't do like real art. So
Which was
I feel like,
fantastic.
oh, thanks. But I
I
feel
mean,
like I
it's
feel like
like,
that's something, people be like, wow, I can have a Mona Lisa and eat it too.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, no way. I think that it's like, I feel like people would really like that.
yeah. I think so. I just think that I don't have the eye for that because I can make Morgan Freeman,
Hmm.
but I don't see Mona Lisa. I see Morgan Freeman on a motorcycle, and you see the Mona Lisa. I think that the world will see Mona Lisa, but I don't know how am I even going to recreate this stuff? How, once they eat it, it's gone.
Diana, I've got an idea.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll help you market it
Okay.
because I know how to get people to find it as Mona Lisa.
You're right.
And then you just paint another one. And even if it doesn't look the same, I still treat it as if it's a Mona Lisa.
Okay.
So I can just be your consultant. I'll be your marketing consultant. I'll get the butts in the seats, the proverbial butts in seats to purchase these paintings. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Okay, great. I mean, like, just as a thought, just because you bring up butts and seats, it's just a thought. And Mr. Landon, please, if this is offensive to you, please let me know beforehand.
Hmm.
Uh, would you be open to possibly wearing something other than boxers from your waist down? I mean, like, I'm just saying, boxer briefs are cool, but I don't think they sell paintings. I'm sorry. That's
Wow.
offensive. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say to sex sell, but that felt really wrong, so
Oh
I
wow.
just
I
wasn't
think
gonna
it
ask
does.
that.
But does it sell
Um,
Mona Lisa paint?
I don't know. I mean, people back then, I feel like they were very modest.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd
She
have a
doesn't look
point.
like she looks fully
She doesn't
dressed.
look like she's enjoying it either. I mean,
No,
really,
she's
like,
not. No, she
you say
wasn't
Mona Lisa
into it.
smile, but I don't buy it.
No, she's
I-
not.
Is
I
she
mean,
even
she's not.
real? Like, was she a real person?
I don't. I don't think so. I
I
don't.
don't know if she was like posing and then he painted her, or if
And
he
it's
just
weird.
like
Is
thought of
like,
it.
oh, I think, wasn't she like that timey person's supermodel? I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe,
I don't.
maybe.
She's maybe she was really the person who people wanted to see, and maybe she was up all over the place, and then he got her in a true form. I don't know. I have no idea. I just, you know what? And when it comes to art, you're the expert,
I will
Mr.
wear
Landon.
pants.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so great. So great.
I will I
That's
will I will wear pants and only pants.
mm, so. I mean, I think that maybe you should dress. I appreciate a lot of hair. You have a lot of hair. I
I'm
like the way
Greek.
that it comes around. It makes you look like you have clothes on. But I know just from the fact that I when I first came, and I mean when we met each other at the bus stop, I was really surprised that you got on the bus like that. That was
Hmm.
pre-pandemic.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
And I
think that
haven't changed a bit.
the hair looks great. I just think that maybe, I'm not giving you any suggestions because you did bubble art, but maybe you should put clothes on.
I said I put pants on.
I mean, all over. I mean, I wouldn't be.
I don't want to put pants all over though. Like,
Well, if you put a shirt on, and maybe I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't even mind it if you put a coat. You could put mittens on. The more clothes, the better. Is all I'm saying.
what about just a trench coat? That'll cover a lot.
I think that would be good for me. It make me feel more comfortable. But I think that if you if we're going to sell this and we're going to go for it, and I'm going to be making all these Morgan Freeman bicycle paintings on
Mona
fitted
Lisa's,
sheets, which I don't even know if we have enough fitted sheets to make this.
Feta cheese isn't cheap either. Speaking of cheap, we said we got ketchup and cheese, but feta cheese is pretty expensive, so we got to be careful with that. You don't want to be doing too much.
We don't really have a lot of. We don't have a lot of product to make this happen. And if you're naked, I'm just not really believing in our abilities. Yeah.
Oh, mm-hmm. Well,
and I think a lot of it has to come. I think a lot of this comes from the fact that our cable was turned off, and that's what you're supposed to be paying.
I just feel like I'm gonna have a comeback, and I feel like one day we won't need cable, and we won't really need the bills either. We'll be good.
Okay.
Which is why I'm asking you to sell this cheese art, the edible art.
Yeah.
Edible art edibles.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's art edibles? I feel like that's more of a market. It's more of a market. Art edibles.
Yeah, you would know. I don't know anything. I mean, I'm lucky to have a place with no cable right now. So you're the expert.
Aren't we all?
No, not me. Only you.
Oh, I meant about the house with the cable.
Oh, yeah, lucky, yeah. I thought you were saying, aren't we all experts? And I'm not. Just you, Mr. Landon. Yeah, I think this will work. I'm willing to do it with you.
Great.
Why not? I mean, what else could we lose at this point?
I mean, we could lose the house.
We could lose the house and probably lose friends and
the businesses.
Confidence, self-confidence.
I think I've already, mine's gone.
It's pretty, I thought that. But, you have a lot now still. You have a closet full of clothes that you don't touch ever, and that's something to have.
Oh, you want to sell them? We could probably get that going too.
With food?
Yeah, what if we dress them up? Like Paddington Bear, like put a little like coat and a little hat on it. And we can make it edible art clothing, but also art edibles.
Yeah, I think it's really, that might be a little bit too confusing, but I think that with us, the two of us, and what we've accomplished so far during this whole thing, I am just basically willing to do whatever you tell me. I mean, I think we could do things together. We can make things happen, but it doesn't really matter if we do, because I just I think I believe in you still, even though most people don't. I believe in you and your thoughts and your opinions. So I'm ready. I'm ready to do this with you. If you will come out of your room more than once a month.
Do you want to, I have one box of bubble art left. Do you want to do it?
You have bubble art?
Yeah, one box left. Saving it for a special occasion.
I would be honored to do bubble art with you right now.
All right. Well, let's make the bubble art and then sell those edibles.
Just one thing. Can you please put some clothes on? Please.
It's seen. We'll never know. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Mirage. This is the Improv Summit. Take care. Bye.
Bye.